What's going on, horror fam? My name is Josh and I'm the creator of Round the Clock Frights Entertainment. So, for those who don't know, I've always wanted to make horror films, specifically as a writer and director. In fact, I wish I could have gotten Ray Liotta to narrate the opening of this video because it definitely would have started with him saying, "For as far back as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a horror filmmaker." Not as cool as a gangster, but anyway, I've always wanted to make horror films. It has been a lifelong dream of mine, which is kind of funny because I was a bit of a scaredy cat back in the day. I was terrified of things that no one else was terrified of. There was this poster of Jim Carrey's The Mask hanging in Blockbuster Video that I was terrified of. It was just something about that green face. But point being, I was easily scared as a kid, but for some reason, horror films were always a source of comfort for me. I think it's because watching a horror film made me feel very brave. It felt like I could conquer my fears. If I sat through a really scary horror movie, then it means that I accomplished something really amazing, at least in my mind. And I have been inspired by so many amazing filmmakers over the years. John Carpenter, Joe Dante, most recently a filmmaker named Damien Leone, who created the Terrifier franchise. He has been a huge source of inspiration for me. But yes guys, I wanted to make this video to talk about two projects in particular that I have been working on. I'm so excited to share this news with you guys. But first, a word from our sponsor. This is a product that I'm very excited to share with you guys. In fact, they reached out. So yes, definitely check that product out. I hope you enjoyed my really long description of today's sponsor. I know that's what you clicked on this video for. Anyway guys, so let's get into it. First off, I wanted to apologize because I know I've been pretty bad at making content lately. I've been phenomenally busy. For those who don't know, I'm actually a manager at a movie theater and it has just been crazy busy this past couple of weeks with new films such as Inside Out 2 and Bad Boys Ride or Die. Man, it has been really exhausting. And also, I don't think I'll be able to get the taste of popcorn out of my mouth anytime soon because we get free popcorn at my place of employment, and over the course of the weekend, I think I consumed at least 10 bags of free popcorn. Probably more than the average male should consume. And yeah, I just can't resist that salty goodness. Our popcorn is absolutely amazing, so hard to resist. So the first project I'm really excited to share with you guys is a horror trailer parody inspired by all of the public domain horror movies that we've been getting lately. There has been a huge increase in public domain horror movies in recent years. Of course, we got the two Winnie the Pooh horror movies, and my friend Brian actually took me to see Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2, which was definitely an experience. My friend Brian actually dragged me to see Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 because he likes to torture me with bad movies. He took me to see 2019's Cats, and I still haven't mentally recovered from that one. That movie was a catastrophe. Anyway, before Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 started, there was a little featurette. The filmmakers behind that movie were talking about their planned cinematic universe. They're going to take children's horror characters such as Bambi, Peter Pan, Sleeping Beauty, and turn them into slasher villains. And we got to see a preview for Bambi's Reckoning, which looked so odd. And I guess it's all supposed to lead to this big crossover event called the Pooniverse, where characters like Sleeping Beauty, Peter Pan, Winnie the Pooh, and many others come together and I guess create more havoc. Really, really bizarre, but we're getting it. So my friend Brian had an idea. He was like, you know what? We should make a parody of these types of movies, these really cheap, public domain horror movies that have been coming out in recent years. So my friend Brian thought of the most innocent children's program that he could, and he landed on VeggieTales. So he wrote a script for this fake horror trailer, copyright friendly of course, because we don't want to get in trouble with the VeggieTales people. I think they would definitely chuck some Bibles at our heads. Anyway, he wrote this script, I read it, and it is very, very funny. It takes the character of Larry the Cucumber from VeggieTales and basically transforms him into this bloodthirsty slasher villain. Although, don't worry, his name isn't Larry in the movie. Much like the Grinch wasn't called the Grinch in that film that came out a couple years ago, he was called the Mean One. So instead of Larry the Cucumber, our slasher villain is actually going to be called the Silly Cucumber. And of course, he dresses like a pirate. He wears this green, horrific mask, with this really goofy-looking buck tooth, resembling Larry the Cucumber. But again, it's definitely not Larry the Cucumber. And we actually thought of a pretty funny tagline for this thing. Since he's dressed as a pirate, we thought the tagline could be "Dead men tell no VeggieTales." But the words veggie and tail had to be spaced out because you put them together, then you could probably get in some trouble. Anyway, we've already filmed footage for this horror trailer. I am the director of photography on the project, and I am just so excited to put this thing out to the world. Brian did agree to publish this video on Round the Clock Frights, so sometime in July, I imagine, it'll probably be available to watch on here. Check it out. Let us know what you think. I hope you guys find it funny because we are putting a lot of work into it, and it's just so hilarious seeing a giant human-like cucumber running around just killing people in creative ways. I mean, minor spoilers, I guess, but there's a part where he kills a character with a rubber chicken. So, yeah, we've definitely been having some fun with this project, for sure. And who knows, maybe one day it'll turn into a feature-length film. If the VeggieTales ever go into public domain, sure, we'll take a stab at it. I'm also writing an original horror screenplay. Now, I've written a number of screenplays over the years. I don't just write, horror movies. I've dabbled in other genres. I wrote an original comic book movie called Super Henchmen, which is essentially a comic book movie told from the perspective of the supervillain's henchmen, satirizing the world of superheroes and whatnot, along the lines of The Boys and stuff like that. Anyway, so this original horror movie that I've been writing, this is actually a very, very personal project for me, because it is heavily inspired by my own life experiences, and I was also inspired by films and books that I grew up consuming. I wrote a lot of books written by this gentleman right here. Give me one sec as I lean over like an old man. This gentleman right here, Stephen King, he would write a lot of horror stories with social commentary in them. Projects like The Mist and The Dead Zone. So my movie is inspired by Stephen King stories, but it's also inspired by some of the monster horror flicks that I grew up watching. Like the 80s Blob, where you had this, gelatinous monster arrive on Earth from outer space, and it begins to consume people in this small town, and the more people it consumes, the bigger it gets. So my movie is called Close That Gap. Why is it called Close That Gap? Well, it's partly based on my experiences of working at a very popular fast food chain. I won't name the place here, but let's just say they sell fried chicken. And we had a manager there who was so cruel and overbearing. He was definitely a micromanager, but he would yell at you every chance he got. He used to be a drill sergeant in the army, so put two and two together. But whenever he was around, we would always be on edge. But he would also make us take orders outside in 110-degree heat. I'm not even kidding. So, those of us who work in the drive-thru, we would have to wear headsets, and we would often hear him screaming at us to close that gap, move that line along, close that gap, let's go. No lines in the drive-thru, let's go. So, yeah, some of the characters in my movie work at a very popular fast food place, of my own design. I don't want to get sued by this by this place, but it's also inspired by something else, something very personal to me. So, recently, me and my wife came out as polyamorous. We are currently involved in a polycule. There's 3 of us at the moment, and to be honest, not everyone was very accepting of this. Not to get into too much detail, but I told some people who I used to be very close to, people that I thought would support me no matter what, would always have my back, and needless to say, their reactions were pretty shocking. But guys, this isn't really a sob story. I'm just telling you what this movie is inspired by. So the 3 leads in this movie, they're all teenagers, and they have to deal with the prejudices of this small town. The main antagonist is this mayor who has just recently been reelected, and he wants to essentially cleanse the earth of people he deems unworthy, which ties into this very sinister cult that resides in this small town. And of course, you gotta sprinkle in some supernatural elements as well. So there's a monster in this movie, a monster that I created called the Sky Shrieker, and basically, if it stings you, you transform into a Sky Shrieker as well. You know, basically, it's like a werewolf, but with different abilities and different weaknesses. But it's basically this winged monster that is nearly unstoppable, and the secret cult that resides in this small town, let's just say they're in cahoots with the Sky Shriekers, and they have some sinister plans of their own. But anyway, guys, that's the premise of Close That Gap. You know, just an overview. These three polyamorous teens who reside in this economically ravaged town have to deal with such things as, you know, prejudice, inequality, and even monsters. And I've been cooking this up for years now, ever since I started working at this popular fast food chain back in 2018. It's a story I've been dying to tell for many years now, and I've written about 80 pages so far, because what I like to do is I actually like to write the story outline first. You know, I just plot the events of the movie first before I write the actual screenplay, and that's what I did. And it makes the screenwriting process much smoother. So yeah, I've written about 80 pages. I'm very happy with what I've written so far. You know, it's filled with emotion, it's filled with romance, it has some humor, don't worry, but there's also some very disturbing parts. You know, parts that might be triggering for some people, but this is a story that I needed to tell. But anyway, guys, those are the two projects that I've been working on at the moment. I have tons of ideas floating around in the old cranium. You know, screenplays that I want to write in the future, some short films I definitely want to get off the ground. I might even start a fundraiser for a feature-length film someday. That's something I've always wanted to do. But yes, those are the two big ones. Those are the things that I've been working on at the moment, and it's why I haven't been producing as much content on this channel lately. I've just been busy, you know, between a full-time job, you know, being a husband, and, you know, being an aspiring filmmaker. Yeah, my schedule is pretty tight at the moment, but, you know, rest assured, I will continue to make as many videos as I can, and don't worry, even though I'm an aspiring filmmaker, I will still be criticizing bad films, because let's face it, if we don't criticize bad films, how is Hollywood ever going to learn from their mistakes? So yeah, don't worry, I'm not going to only talk about horror films that I like. I will still talk about movies that I find to be rather subpar, like I did with The Strangers Chapter 1. That movie was pretty abysmal.
No, sir, I didn't like it.
But anyway, guys, those are some things that I just wanted to share with you. Again, thank you so much for your support, because I've been doing this for a few years now, you know, ever since 2016. You know, making these horror videos, you know, sharing my love of horror movies with you guys, and it's been really amazing. So for those who have supported me on this journey, I just wanted to say, from the bottom of my black heart, thank you again, guys. You have been amazing. I've met some really amazing people in the horror community, you know, whether at conventions or at horror film festivals. You guys are just awesome, and I can't wait to continue this journey with you. Anyway, if you liked what you saw here, please subscribe to my channel Round the Clock Frights for more horrific content. And guys, I hope you're staying safe, I hope you're staying scary, and as always, take care.